Dystopian sci-fi is a genre that makes big predictions about the future, which usually don't come true as such, but do end up being prescient in certain key ways. In literature, 1984 is the gold standard, describing a derelict UK where lies are truth and history is whatever it needs to be in the present. In cinema, Blade Runner is the king of the hill, predicting a Los Angeles of 2019 that was hyperdeveloped, crowded, dark and dominated by extreme poverty and the ultra-wealthy, where AI had already become a problematic factor in society. It didn't quite happen, but it's not exactly wrong either. The Running Man is a dystopian sci-fi novel written by Richard Bachman, which was the pen name of horror writer Stephen King. It was first published in 1982 and then again in the Bachman Books compilation in 1985. It's set in the dark and distant future of 2025 and tells the story of Ben Richards, a down-on-his-luck, unemployed 28-year-old husband and father who signs up to be a contestant on a deadly game show on the network to raise money for his wife and sickly child. After waiting for hours in a long line and going through a series of tests, he's selected as a contestant to win untold riches if he can survive for 30 days, and no one has. The rules are that he is declared an enemy of the state and is given a 12-hour head start to survive 30 days on the run. For each hour he survives, he banks $100, and all he has to do is live and post 2 videos every day for broadcast. If he survives, he wins $1 billion. Viewers get cash rewards for reporting sightings and a big prize if their sighting leads to his death at the hands of the police or, worst of all, the elite group of hunters. The novel follows his attempts to travel across America, getting himself a disguise and fake documents, escaping from a YMCA and setting off an explosion that kills police officers, befriending a young ghetto gang member who smuggles him out of the city and through checkpoints to Manchester, where he decides to hide out in disguise before moving on to the home of a friend of the gang member. This is blown by the friend's mum, and on the run again, he takes a hostage who drives into an airfield where the police, hunters and a large crowd watch and wait for his next move. Taking a plane, he flies low over populated areas when the producer Killian offers him a role as a hunter, thanks to him breaking the all-time survival record. But Richards, heavily injured after being shot during his escape, gives a final defiant response. During his time on the run, he learns more and more about the injustice of the world he lives in. The gang member tells him about the pollution in the air and how the air filters people use are deliberately ineffective, enough to give his toddler sister lung cancer. Richards tries to spread this information in his tapes, but the network fakes technical issues over his speeches. He uses his time on the run and his success to urge the masses to rise up and rebel, and the lower class citizens do so, with the police quickly losing control of law and order. The beginnings of a revolution may well have stirred, or may not. Stephen King wrote The Running Man in a week, far quicker than any of his other works, 68,000 words in a single week, compared to his usual rate of 2,000 a day. He used a pen name because, being a successful horror writer, he felt it would work best under a different association. I first read this around the time the Arnold Schwarzenegger adaptation came out. I can't remember if I read it before or after, but I liked them both. It didn't bother me that they were vastly different from each other, and I could appreciate them for what they were individually. It's much darker than the adaptation, but also somewhat less violent. It certainly felt less sci-fi than on the big screen. This could easily have been set in the present time back then, though many of the ideas were kind of wild for the day. For example, when Richards takes his hostage, he calls a local TV station to let them know where he's going as a way of protecting himself from being killed on camera. It results in thousands of locals coming out on the street to watch, cheer him on, and to film the chase. Does that sound familiar? The idea of the suffering of ordinary people being a form of entertainment and people willingly volunteering for it was still unheard of in 1982, and untold riches as a price seemed like the only upside. It was inaccurate in that death would be the price to pay, but these days people willingly put themselves in the stocks for far less, and mostly nothing. My verdict? Not as good as I remember it. There are 2 main problems. The first is that it feels too short. The plot moves from one setting to the next without allowing each part to settle for a little while to explore the world and its characters, nor delve into themes surrounding the characters and their motivations. Richards gets help from a gang member in Boston who explains how pollution is harming the low classes, but before that's properly worked with, Richards is moving along. When he's helped in Manchester, he's barely there for a few pages before he's on the run again, and his helper violently disappears from the story. It's similar with his hostage. The second is that we don't get to know the side characters much, if at all. The gang member and his little brother, their friend in Manchester, the hostage, all have lightning fast appearances that are each a missed opportunity to learn more about the world and its various injustices surrounding aspects such as race or wealth. The hunters of the game are mentioned as a serious threat, but they only appear towards the end, and only one of them, and he's treated like a significant character despite having no part in the plot for 70% of the story, and I mean not even a mention. The show's producer, Killian, could have been a fantastic antagonist, but beyond his early interaction with Richards and the offer at the end, he has no significant part in the plot. Basically, the novel needed to be twice the length. It could have been a neat concurrent plot based around the hunter, McCone, tracking Richards, benefiting from the corruption of the network whose only goal is to kill Richards and not pay out the $1 billion. He and Richards would have mirrored each other, and Killian could have played a role of a puppet master, maybe slowly seeing the benefits of Richards' success and manipulating the situation for profit and popularity. It felt like it was trying to explore themes such as wealth inequality, media influence, the power of corporations, urban decay, and such like, but it only really did it through mentions. There is no world building in this story. I can't get my head about what life looks like in this America. It's initially set in Co-op City, but what is that? Is it a forest of mighty skyscrapers or a series of large neighbourhood constructions? Is it a dark hellhole surrounded by pristine suburbs? Is the US a series of megacities, one big urban area, all similar to now? What's the government like? How did the country get to where it is? We're supposed to care about the characters, but, given their short appearances, there's just no space for them to become important. The hostage acts like she has Stockholm Syndrome, but she's only in captivity for a few hours and for no reason tries to help Richards. Richards and the hunter act like they have some sort of antagonistic connection, but the latter is only mentioned late. For me, this book is a series of missed opportunities, and King would have done much better if he had calmed down and stuck to his 2,000 words a day target. There's so much he could have talked about, using each of the key characters along the way to highlight the way the world was and how he thought it would be. He does make some predictions that come true, but it feels mostly accidental rather than considered. It's a shame, but the most important thing about this book, for me, is that it got me into Stephen King, which became a bit of an obsession for me in my teens, and then I discovered Clive Barker, and in my life, the rest is history. Next up, the remake I've been waiting over 35 years for.